All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. We got week number 4 and the Sunday slate to cover in today's video. What we're going to do is we're going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'll break them down. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That's where you'll find all of my final plays, so I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest you, it's absolutely free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3, 4 more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. Now, before we do dive into today's slate, guys, go ahead and hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Appreciate it big time. Let me know what you guys are rolling with down in the comments as well. Looking to jump on board with some of you guys down there. And you're also, like I tell you all the time, you're helping a ton of other people looking for some plays. So make sure to leave your reasoning, rationale, your angle, all that down in the comments. I absolutely love reading those comments week in and week out. But, all right, what do you say we go ahead and dive into game number 1 here? International game. We're over in Dublin. We got the Steelers taking on the Vikings. Now, traditionally and historically, I don't really love these international games, whether it was even the Brazil one that we looked at in week 1 or just, in past seasons. This is somewhat interesting because I do think that we have 2 decent enough defenses on our hands. The Vikings defense has been really, really good to start the season. And the Steelers, I can only imagine that their defense is going to get better as the season kind of goes on, because they didn't start off all that great, but then looked okay last week against the Patriots. So I think my first and initial lean would be that under. I feel like that's somewhat of a, a go-to lean in the sense of teams traveling over there. And I think even the Steelers requested to go over early, and the NFL said, nah, both teams have to go there at the same time to rule out any sort of advantage or something like that. So that's pretty interesting. I don't know if that's happened before, but yeah, I kind of like the idea of an under 41.5. Now, if I had to take a side here, I'm thinking that the Vikings would be the spot. Their defense looks like it's a little bit better. I love the idea of the pressure that they can bring and kind of get to Aaron Rodgers. So it would be Vikings -2.5 for me. I don't know if I like that as much as the under, as well as the player prop that we like. Jordan Mason, I like his overs, whether it's carries, whether it's yards, him to score a touchdown. I think that we could get behind that. Obviously, he's going to garner more and more carries as the season goes on here. All right, the next game up is the Falcons taking on the, that is not right. Let's make sure to edit that one. Power of editing there. Falcons taking on the Commanders. Right now, Falcons 2.5-point favorites, total sitting at 45.5. Falcons coming off of, they got pantsed, right? How embarrassing. You lose to the Panthers. Not only lose to the Panthers, but you get beat 30-0. Commanders might not have Jaden Daniels again. They didn't have him last week. They beat Las Vegas. What was it? 41-24. So yeah, no Jaden Daniels, no problem. Now, Jaden Daniels questionable in this one, as is Terry McLaurin. Obviously, 2 key pieces there. I do think people are going to overreact to the Falcons' loss. I still believe that they actually have a much improved defense, and they're applying pressure and drawing up the right blitz at the right time. So I do think that if Jaden Daniels doesn't play, there are some angles to get to an under here in this spot. Because I believe that, Michael Penix Jr. and this offense is far and away from firing on all cylinders, in their own right. So Washington, who, yeah, their defense allowed 24 to the Raiders, 27 to the Packers, only 6 to the Giants, but that's probably a Giants thing. They could actually be in a good defensive spot here because, again, I don't really think this Falcons offense is firing on all cylinders. And yeah, they scored 0 points last week, so it's not that crazy that I'm saying it. So I don't mind the idea of a 45.5 looking at the under there. If Jaden Daniels and Terry play, I think you're getting a deal with the Washington Commanders inside a field goal. But I'm sure that line will move heavily depending on how that and those injuries kind of work out. So give me the Commanders as well as the under, but we really have to make sure we're doing our due diligence, and I'd say that to you guys watching as well, keeping up to date with what the injuries look like and how these guys are progressing throughout the week, because we are recording this a few days in advance. A player prop that I also do want to mention is Kyle Pitts. We saw what Tucker Kraft was able to do to Washington a couple weeks ago. I like the idea of Pitts in this spot as well. A lot of focus is going to be on the outside. I think the Pitts could catch a few balls and, for a few yards. He did have it, I believe we saw 44 yards last time he saw these guys. So player prop spot to consider there. And speaking of player props, if you guys do enjoy player props, make sure to check out Sleeper and specifically Sleeper Picks. You can check it out with the link down in the description as well as the pinned comment or scan the QR code on your screen right now. Sleeper is hooking it up and giving you a 0.5 passing yards line for Aaron Rodgers. Even though I talked about the Dublin game and how I think these teams might be a little groggy or blah, 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 guess what? Aaron Rodgers, 1 yard. We could probably see that happening, right? You also get your first deposit matched up to $100, so some free money there as well. Check it out, guys. That link, again, will be down below in the description, as well as the pinned comment. You know what? We're going to put it to the test. Sleeper, do not make a liar out of me. Whenever I log on this dang app, we see discounts and boosts all the time, and boom, there you go. Right now, at the time of recording, 5 additional promos that they are running. They absolutely hook it up constantly, and they have been to the start of the NFL season. So go check it out. Link down below in the description, as well as the pinned comment. Let's get back into these games. All right, we can be rather quick with this one. We got the Bills taking on the Saints. The Bills, 16.5-point favorites. I get it, rightfully so in a sense, right? The Saints not very good. The Bills, unbelievable. What I would probably look at, and there's only, in my brain, a couple ways to play this, is some sort of a same game parlay where if you can identify some of the weaknesses in the Saints team, like pretty much the entire defense, you can get there. I think there's a lot of upside with James Cook, and yeah, the Bills probably do win it. So if there's some sort of same game parlay where you can take James Cook to say, hey, score a touchdown or is over in carries, as well as the Bills on the money line, and get something to work in some sort of odds that are on this planet, that's probably the only way that I'd look at it. Bills team total over would be something that I consider as well, but again, like, you're not really going to be getting a discount or a nice price for any of this because the whole world is thinking what we're saying right now. So I think we're probably looking at some James Cook volume as well as a Bills win. Maybe there's a way to marry the two there. All right, Lions taking on the Browns. Lions laying 8.5 here. That total at 45.5. Now, we all saw what the Lions can do, right? We were on the right side of that one in terms of our lean with that Monday Night Football game against the Ravens. This team, people definitely overreacted to week number 1 against the Packers. Well, speaking of the Packers, the Browns coming off of an outright win against the Packers and a comeback win. So what do we do with this 8.5? I still believe in this Browns defense, but we did see Jared Goff look pretty good and pretty comfortable against man defense against the Ravens, right? And this is a Browns team that likes to play a lot of man. I expect the Lions to be able to continue with their momentum and win this one. Now, is 8.5 too big of a number? Maybe. I have it right around that same number. And to be honest, that's the way that I'm leaning. Lions minus the 8.5, because if the Browns had not just won outright and beat the Packers, I'd probably be thinking, okay, this is a big number. They'll keep it close and all that. But they just won that game. You have the Lions coming in here with all this momentum. They're at home. Just seems like a spot in which the Lions could probably go off, even though I do believe in this Browns defense. So I'll lean Lions. I don't mind the Lions team total over. Yes, it's kind of fading my whole thought that this is a good Browns defense, but still, I don't think they do it 2 weeks in a row. One spot that I could also consider would be Joe Flacco. His attempts, his completions, I do expect him to kind of throw the ball all around, especially if we're looking at him in a spot in which he's, losing by a decent amount. So we'll see what his lines come out at. But, right now I'm seeing like 230 for his passing yards line. I definitely don't mind that. Again, he was under it in 2 straight games, but week number 1 against Cincinnati threw for 290. I expect something closer to like 240 than sub 200 like we saw in the 2 weeks prior here. All right, we got the Texans taking on the Titans. Both teams sitting here at 0-3, right? And we were on the Texans last week, money line. That one blew up in our face. In fact, let's take a womp womp for that look. We took that because of, what reason? Oh, well, there's no way the Texans can go 0-3. They did, and they got pummeled by this, Colts team, or excuse me, the Jacksonville team. When you really think about it, they were only able to put up, what was it, 10? Yeah, 10 points. Now, did the defense play well? Sure, I guess. I would also say that, we kind of saw Trevor Lawrence not look all that great. Like, you could either say Trevor Lawrence didn't look good or the Texans defense looked, good. I would say I'm leaning more towards the side of the spectrum of Lawrence actually isn't that good. But even still, we already know that the Texans have a good defense, right? The problem is their offense. Now through 3 games, 9, 19, and 10 points. They've gone up against the Rams, the Bucks, and the Jags. So it's not like they've had a cakewalk, but I don't really know if I think that this Titans defense is terrible. Like, yes, we saw 41 points to the Colts last week, 33 to the Rams the week before, 20 to Denver. So even though they have some names and they should be good, maybe this team isn't as good defensively as we think, which I'm kind of hoping for because, yeah, guess what? I'll sound the psycho alert alarm. I don't know if it's warranted. I'm going to probably be right back on the Texans here. they are still the better team. They do have better offensive playmakers, and when push comes to shove, I think they have the better defense in general. So all of those phases, they should be able to win here. I don't mind this spot. That total's way down there at 39.5. I almost want to just look at a Tennessee team total under. That way we don't have to worry about what the Texans are going to do, because they do have some firepower, right? At any given moment, this Texans team could go off. They just haven't really looked like they even have that potential yet. So I do lean under, but it's probably more geared to the Titans team total under. Now, one player prop spot to note, and this is just kind of a volume play, would be me considering Tony Pollard. In terms of his carries or his yards and all that. Yes, obviously this is a good Houston defense that I do believe in. They haven't been all that phenomenal against the run. They're more so going to get to the pressuring of the quarterback. And what I like is that Tony Pollard still is going to have, obviously, that bell cow workload. Tajay Spears is out for another week due to the IR. And I'm assuming even in the next week or so, when he comes back, he's not going to be 100%. So maybe there's still another week or two to stretch out some Tony Pollard workload, right? So don't necessarily mind that spot. But yeah, maybe it's crazy. We sounded the cycle alert alarm. We could be right back on the Texans. Patriots taking on the Panthers. We've already kind of touched on it. Panthers coming off of, for all intents and purposes, a big week for them, right? A 30-point week, beating a team that, most people thought they would beat. They're 5-point dogs. They won 30-0. The Patriots coming off of losing by a touchdown to the Steelers squad, they only put up 14 points. That means they've scored 14 or less points in 2 of their 3 matchups so far against the Raiders. The Dolphins they did go off against, right? And then Pittsburgh, they only put up 14. I've already said that I think the Steelers defense is obviously better than people might think. I don't think the Panthers are the same defense. I would say that they're closer to the Dolphins, right? So, yeah, I don't mind the idea of the Patriots in this spot. Now, I'll admit I'm a Patriots fan, but that's not really even why I'm buying into this spot. This is a Panthers team that's playing more zone defense than anyone else in the league, and they're applying, less pressure than anyone else in the league. They're applying pressure at a 16.82% clip, which is good enough for 32nd in the league. So zone, no pressure. Drake May should be able to perform here. So that's kind of what I'm assuming and thinking we'll see. So I like Drake May in this spot. His passing yards line is at 230.5. Don't mind that either. The problem with this is that if they're really, really winning, it would be just like Vrabel and the Patriots to say, all right, let's pound the rock, right? So maybe you get some Ramondre, Travion Henderson looks, Gibson looks, that type of thing. So that's the only thing that kind of talk me off of it, but I don't mind the Patriots minus the points or their team total over. That's something that I can get behind as well. I would say this Panthers team is going to go right back to what they were doing prior to this, which was 26 allowed to Jacksonville. We know Jacksonville's not that good of an offense. Arizona, 27. Jury's still out on that offense, right? So I like Drake May and the Patriots this week to score some points. Giants taking on the Chargers here. Giants and Russell Wilson showing the world that they may not be all that good, to put it lightly, right? And Chargers doing something at the exact opposite end of the spectrum. So you have this Giants squad who I think even Giants fans are kind of calling for Russell Wilson's head, right? Wanting Dart to get in there. Whereas the Chargers, everyone's praising Justin Herbert. And this line does not indicate that, right? That 6.5 is weird as anything to me. I'm still going to lean Chargers because let's not overthink this. This Chargers team is so much better than this Giants squad. Even their only road game this year was in Las Vegas. They won 20-9, right? Whereas the Giants, they only have one good game, and against a really bad Dallas secondary. They played Washington, got kind of embarrassed. They played Kansas City, got kind of embarrassed. Dallas was the game that they competed with. But if we were, speaking of spectrums, if we were to say where the Chargers lean towards, it's like they're closer to the Washington and Kansas City side of things than they are Dallas. They have a good defense, good offense. So to me, yeah, it's Chargers all the way. But maybe we try to ice out the idea of like the spread at +6. Maybe we look at the Chargers as some sort of a parlay in terms of a money line pairing, something like that. Guys, real quick, jumping in there, just as we're editing this and afterwards, looks like the Giants are actually saying that they're looking to start Jackson Dart. So, yeah, there goes a little footnote into what we're talking about here. In terms of a total, I could also probably get behind Chargers team total over. I think that they're going to hammer Amari and Hampton here. I think that that's a great spot to look. Obviously, Najee being injured as well. This should be a spot in which he gets a ton of carries. I like the idea of him scoring a touchdown. His rushing yards realistically should be a good spot for that. This is the 32nd ranked team when it comes to rush DVOA this season. They're allowing the second most rushing yards per game. It's because teams are getting up on them and they're holding the lead. We're kind of yet yet to truly see a Chargers game in which they say, all right, go take the wheel run game, right? I mean, Hampton had, 19 carries last week, so maybe that's kind of a spot. But point being is that they've let Justin Herbert throw the ball. This could be that first game where they say, all right, Jim Harbaugh style, let's go ahead and just pound the rock, which I kind of expect. So I like Hampton's numbers this week too. Next up, we have the Bucs taking on the Eagles. This should obviously be a very good game. Unfortunate news, looks like Mike Evans is going to be sidelined. I think it was a hamstring, right, for the next few weeks. So that's obviously a big loss to this squad. I would say that this Eagles team is proving that they can beat really good teams, right? But at the same time, there's been some sort of miracles that have happened to lead to this 3-0 season, like the drops in the Dallas game, the Kelsey fumble in game 2, the blocked kicks in game 3. We know this Eagles team is still really good and they find ways to get things done, but I also do want to acknowledge that there is some issues, I guess, in a sense. Now, with no Mike Evans, we may also be seeing the return of Chris Godwin, which would obviously help cancel some things out. That would obviously be very important. But still, I just can't seem to get behind the Bucs here in this spot. That number's a little bit too low for the team that I still consider one of the top, 3 teams in the league. And the Bucs are just outside of that ranking for me, but not necessarily good enough, because even as I just kind of ragged on the Eagles for how they've won some games, can we be honest about this Bucs team that they beat the Jets by, 2 or 3 points? Week number 1 against Atlanta, last second touchdown from Baker. Week number 2 against Houston, last second drive, Rachaad White puts it in. So as much as we can use the argument that the Eagles have just found a way to win, but it's been close, the Bucs are like another team in the league that's done the exact same thing. One spot that I do like here, though, and I know that we have some good defenses, I kind of like the idea of over. I think that even if these defenses are making plays, guys, I think that we're going to have a lot of new drive. So I think that we could see a lot of possessions between the two teams, and we might even have to crawl to an over here, but I definitely like the spot. So over 42.5 is actually out there. I know the graphics is 43, but kind of like the idea of an over. And kind of in line with that, one thing that I'm also considering is Jalen Hurts, his completions. We know that we should at least expect a decent amount of pressure coming from this Bucs team, drawing up blitzes and just getting to the quarterback. I think that Jalen Hurts will get it out pretty quickly, whether it's to Saquon or A.J. Brown in the slot, that type of thing. We really haven't seen him do much passing yet. I think this could be the week. We'll see. Rams taking on the Colts. A lot of people taking a peek at this game, as they should, because it should be a really interesting one, right? We have Daniel Jones, or should I say Indiana Jones, absolutely going off. 3 games now, 33-8 win over Miami, 29-28 win because of that blocked field goal. Let's not forget, but coulda, shoulda, woulda, we're talking about this. It's a fact that they won. And then they win against the Denver Broncos, right? And then they win 41-20 last week. I had the under in that game. Good call, Ev. Now, this spot has the Rams coming in after losing flukishly to the Eagles. They could easily be 3-0. 14-9 win over the Texans. Tennessee, 33-19. 26-33 loss last week. I don't know if this warrants a psycho alert alarm, but I'm all over the Rams here. I like this spot. I think that this Indiana team at Indianapolis. How many times have I said Indiana multiple times? Indianapolis. I think that this is a team that at some point the train has to slow down, right? Maybe I'm completely wrong and I'm a dummy. It's happened plenty of times before, and I mean plenty of times before. But I just feel like this Rams team, their defense is really underrated. And the way that they even played Philadelphia in a tight game like that, being able to, start off hot. And yeah, they just didn't really do much in the fourth quarter. They blew it away. But they realistically had that game in their hands. Gives me a little bit of a feeling. So yeah, this is less data-backed, less analysis there. It's more of a gut spot. I feel like we could see some regression out of this Indianapolis team. They've played 2 of their 3 games, at home, won both of those. They played last week and stomped Tennessee, but Tennessee is not the Rams. So give me the Rams in this spot. I also don't mind the idea of the under. I think that this is way up there because people are assuming that this Colts team is going to continue to score 50,000 points a game. Don't think it happens today. Don't think it happens this game. All right, we got the 49ers taking on the Jags. Right now, 3-point favorites are the 49ers. That totals up at 47.5. I would say that I lean 49ers in this spot simply because I'm starting to lose faith in this Jacksonville squad. Let's not forget, and I already kind of hinted at this video, right? This is supposed to be the team with Cohen and Trevor Lawrence, and they're all supposed to be really, really good. And though we've seen a couple good offensive outputs from them, Carolina, Cincinnati, they play a real defense in Houston and put up 17 last week. Now, can the San Francisco team move the ball and do well? That's a horse of a different color. They've gone up against Seattle, New Orleans, and Arizona, and they only have, one game in which they looked really good, and that was against New Orleans. I still do think that this Giants team is better and better than 3 points to Jacksonville. So I lean towards the, did I say the Giants? This 49ers team is better than Jacksonville by 3 points, okay? The problem is I don't know if I want to trust another week of Mac Jones. Brock Purdy is questionable, and rumor has it he almost played last week, so I'd expect him to play this week. I'll say 49ers if Mac Jones plays, and that total is weird. Like, yeah, we're probably going to see a lot of zone out of the Jaguars, but they also, mix it up. So if we see a lot of zone, then I expect Brock Purdy to kind of dot it up. But man, I could see some slow offense from a team that 2 of their 3 games has looked kind of slow as well. So maybe a lean towards the under. Christian McCaffrey volume is definitely something that I'm considering as well, especially if Brock Purdy comes back. He's a guy that will get a lot of passes. Like, he's literally like a wide receiver 2, maybe 1 at this point in terms of his target. So that's a player prop spot. Not that that's dropping any jaws, but I do like Christian McCaffrey in this matchup too. Another really good matchup this week. We have Kansas City taking on the Ravens. Both these teams played primetime games. Last week we had Sunday Night Football. The Chiefs beat down on the Giants. They won 22-9. The Ravens lose that game to the Lions. I want to start with one thing about this Kansas City squad is that obviously, the world was on them to win last week. They weren't going to start 0-3, blah, blah, blah. But the Giants lost that game just as much as the Chiefs won it. Whereas I don't think the Ravens looked all that terrible. I mean, they definitely did not look great at times against the Lions, but the Lions are reminding everyone that, yeah, we're still really, really good. So this is a spot in which I think that 2.5 seems pretty nice for the Ravens. I would probably just look at the Ravens on the money line, but I think a lot of people are going to overthink this game and think, the Chiefs, they'll just outsmart and outcoach the Ravens. Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar, who's going to step up in the big moments? Probably Mahomes. They're at home. And while all that is valid, and if you do want to get to the Chiefs here, especially for plus money at home, I'm not going to stand in your way. I totally get that. This is a game in which you can make an argument on both sides. But if you're really looking at the body of work for this season, the Ravens, even in their 2 losses, have put up, 30-plus points. This is a Chiefs team that is struggling to score the ball. 21-17, 22. I can't really look past that. I'm going to lean towards the Ravens. Don't mind the Ravens team total over either. Yes, this Kansas City team, their defense is good, and they are. But this Ravens team is so dynamic. They've gone 40, 41, and 30 to start the season. Show me that they can have a game in which they get stopped and, just absolutely thrown out of the water for full 4 quarters. And then I'll start considering some unders there, okay? So give me the Ravens as well as the over in this spot. I don't mind Lamar Jackson. I mean, this Kansas City team plays plenty of man, and Lamar Jackson should be pretty good against man. That's not necessarily his, overall MO, but he's been pretty good this season, and even his numbers, he didn't look terrible against that Lions team, right? I mean, did he look great? Not necessarily, but 288, 3 touchdowns, 21 of 27. That's pretty damn good. Raiders taking on the Bears. Geno Smith taking on Caleb Williams. The Bears win 31-14 last week, right? They look pretty good. Now, Las Vegas, we've already kind of talked about it. They got beat 41-24. They got smacked by the Chargers and Monday Night Football the week before. They've only beat the Patriots, and even as a Patriots fan, I've already admitted they're not all that great. I think this is a good spot to consider the Bears. Do I really think that they're going to score 31 points again or something like that? No, but I think that they're the better team, and we should see a decent amount of zone from Las Vegas. They're the 4th ranked team in terms of zone frequency this season, and Caleb Williams much better against zone. You're also going to see not too much pressure, which is kind of where he struggles. On the flip side, we're going to get a bunch of man defense out of the Bears, and guess what? Geno's pretty good against man. They don't necessarily blitz all that much, but he's really good against the blitz, so I could see some points in this one. 47.5 feels like a pretty efficient line, but I like the idea of the Bears as well as the over. Don't love either one of the defenses, and I think that there is some firepower on both sides. So give me that over, but maybe a Bears team total over is also something to consider here. I think that we could see a nice game out of, Caleb Williams. One spot that I just want to get to, and I think it's just like the fan in me in a sense, but I really want to say that Ashton Jeanty at some point is going to have a good game. And 65.5 yards right now is what I'm seeing for his line. His touchdown prop, I think, is, I actually don't know if we have that, -140. Kind of like those as well, but it doesn't necessarily correlate to how I see the game going. Hey, real quick, guys, if you've made it this far into the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. It definitely helps us out. Hit that subscribe button if you are new. We're about to talk about Sunday Night Football. I'm going to do it pretty quickly like we do all of these games. We have our own standalone video breaking this game down that Tassos does on the channel, so make sure to go ahead and check that out. But yeah, just wanted to interrupt here and ask you guys to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Really, really, really do appreciate it. It does not go, I don't take it for granted how awesome you guys have been to start this NFL season. Seeing a lot of growth, and we're putting in the work. 30 plus videos a week across all of us, and not even including the shorts that we're putting out. Really appreciate all the support, guys. We'll keep grinding for you. Sunday Night Football, Cowboys taking on the Packers. Cowboys, most likely, or they are, right, going to be without CeeDee Lamb. So I guess good thing they picked up George Pickens, kind of a guy that can fill into a one receiver spot. Obviously, the Packers coming off of that loss against the Browns. So they'd probably come into this one pretty damn fired up. Dallas also got smoked by the Bears. I expect both these teams come in fired up. I almost wanted to get to an under, just because I think that this is going to be a Packers defense that dominates the game, but we're also going to see a ton of zone coverage out of, Green Bay. That's what they do. They sit back and just sit in zone, and Dak Prescott's actually a lot better this season against man. And then you flip it over, Dallas, who's probably going to sit back in a lot of zone. Jordan Love is crushing man this year, and he struggled against zone. So I guess under is what I look at, but these Dallas games that we've seen so far, it's a little alarming to think about an under, right? They've allowed 24, 37, 31 points. The Packers scored 27 in their first two games and then just scored 10 last week, but that was more of an anomaly than, a thing that's going to happen more often than not. So I do lean under. I think it's a little crazy. If I had to pick a side, I would say that the Packers are the better team. Returning to Dallas also is Micah Parsons. Yeah, it's probably square. It's probably chalky, but give me the Packers in this spot as well. And guys, that is going to wrap it up for today's show. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button down below. Really, really do. Like I've said 10 times in this video, but just because I keep saying it doesn't mean it's any less true. Really do appreciate what you guys have put in. I always tell you, I know I have the camera, the setup, the equipment, the microphone, right? I know I have that, but it takes two to tango. You guys watching, commenting, interacting with our community is a huge gear in what we're building here. So really do appreciate it. With that said, we'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.